One of the most oft-discussed topics in the silver market is the way in which it's been manipulated through the years. And so we want to look at that today. My name is Rick Bloodworth. This is the Common Sense Christian Financial Channel. It is Monday, February the 16th of 2026. The futures market in silver has just closed. It's a shortened holiday. The stock market wasn't open at all, and though the commodities exchanges were open, they were opened on a much more subdued volume than you would typically see. And so it's been a pretty quiet day in the commodities market. I'm not sure if we can look forward to too many more of those in the upcoming weeks. But again, I wanted to come back and talk about some of the manipulations that have been occurring, not just now, but throughout the years. We know that they do occur because we have seen the CFTC come and fine some of the individual players in the futures market, specifically in the silver market, to the tune of billions of dollars for the manipulation that they have been caught in. Now, I also want to point out that the CFTC, which is the regulating body for the commodity exchange, really doesn't seem to be overly serious about preventing the manipulations that are going on, because sometimes these players, these big banks, will make in the hundreds of billions of dollars in profit from some of the manipulations they have done, and then they might get fined $1 billion or $2 billion. So if you're only getting fined pennies on the dollar for what you can expect to profit, it really does not motivate you very much to stop the manipulation. And in fact, they don't appear to have been stopping their manipulations in recent weeks. I did want to talk about one instance that occurred last Thursday, and I want to begin by thanking one of the viewers. I'll just use his first name. It's James. He sent me a couple of articles and also some charts that showed the manipulation that had occurred on this last Thursday, and specifically, this is what had happened. On Thursday, which was February the 12th, we were over $85. We weren't too far from this resistance line up here, and we were doing pretty good, but at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Bloomberg, the news agency, came out with a report that Russia was considering backing off its stance on de-dollarizing. Now, most of you know that Russia, as well as China and Brazil and some other players, are very heavily involved with a new trading agreement where they're not using the US dollar. And so for Russia to say that they might be backing off of that was a pretty big deal. And so at 11 o'clock that was announced, and at 11 o'clock the market dropped almost straight down $10 in a period of about half an hour. Really, most of that activity occurring in just about a 10-minute span. And the thing that made this the most suspicious was the fact that the commodities exchange, which trades tens of thousands of contracts every day, traded just one or two contracts during about a 5 or a 10-minute period, in which the market dropped 12%, just in one felt swoop. Well, what was going on? While we don't know exactly what was going on, we can say there was a catalyst by this news report. And by the way, a report by the TASS news agency in Russia the very next day, walking back those comments or this so-called leaked report or memorandum, claiming that that wasn't exactly what they were thinking about doing. Now, they didn't walk it all the way back. They didn't completely close the door on the idea that they might use dollars in the future, but they did point out that it was the U.S. that took that right away from them, not them taking it away or taking that option off the table. So anyway, they walked back their comments on Friday. The market did come up a little bit. Maybe it retraced about a third to close to a half for the day, but again, the damage was done, a 12% drop. And it was done in this fashion. A news report came out that was negative to the metals sector, but positive to the US dollar. And at that very moment, for some inexplicable reason, there weren't any contracts being traded. Now, I've never seen that happen before. Perhaps it has, but this was certainly an anomaly of a magnitude that I have never witnessed before. And so it does appear that there was some sort of manipulation. I'm not suggesting that Bloomberg was part of it. That was just, their story was just a catalyst for it happening. What happens behind the scenes, we don't know. There's another incident that we can put our finger on and we can say that it definitely was manipulation. And this occurred on Friday, February the 6th. And in order to set that up, we have to go back to Thursday, the day before, and there was a tremendous market drop. We got as high as $90.51 on the overnight market, but it dropped down to $70.86. What had happened? Well, there was a report out that some of the overseas exchanges, India in particular, were raising their margin requirements significantly on silver. I think it was 4 or 4.5%. But also there was a Chinese billionaire who had made $3 billion off of his gold trades, and he decided that now he would amass the largest silver short position in the world. And so, at least for a non-bank, if in fact this was an individual. And so the market just started selling off, and it continued to sell off to the very close on Thursday. And then Friday, when the market opened up, it dropped to $63.98 in a very short period of time. But then it turned on a dime. What happened? Well, the Shanghai exchange officials intervened. They said they identified 6 accounts that appeared to be linked to one individual that were trading in a coordinated way to bypass the rules on the number of contracts that you could have. And by doing so, they had manipulated the market down, and the Shanghai exchange officials shut that down. And when they did, the market just started going up, and it closed near the high for the day after that. We certainly tested this $70.86 low that was set the day before, but it was clear manipulation. It was identified as manipulation, and when that happened, the market went back up. These are just 2 instances of how the market can be manipulated and how we know for a fact that it is in certain instances. In some instances, like last Thursday, we just have a strong suspicion, but the Friday before that, there's not any doubt about it at all, because the officials that were involved with the exchange in Shanghai identified it as pure manipulation. And when they shut it down, in fact, the market did go back up. Now, what do we have left right now? Right now, we have a pretty good range. We set that on Thursday, February the 5th, with a low of 70.86 and a high of 90.51. A $20 range, and we've actually kind of started narrowing that range down. It's starting to coil a little bit like a spring right now, and the volume for these days has gone down significantly. As a matter of fact, on Friday we had a tie for the lowest volume on the COMEX exchange for the last several months. It was a total of 78,838 contracts, which represents about 390 million ounces of silver, which is less than half of the world's mining supply or mining output. So that was a very unusual day, a quiet day on Friday the 13th. And then today was really quiet. Again, it was a shortened trading day, but there was only 15,000 contracts reported being sold on the front month, the March contract, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. It's a holiday day. You would expect a much lower volume, but my point is we're trading at a much lower volume than we had been for a number of months. And so is the market quieting down, or is it getting ready for something big? I certainly don't know. Maybe you have your opinions, but we really can't know on that. But what we can know is we have the market trading in a range. We have 2 weeks before the March contract starts having its first intent of delivery notices. That'll happen on February the 27th. And so there's just 9 more trading days until that point. They can certainly trade the March contract throughout the month of March, so it doesn't have to be closed out in the next 2 weeks, but keep an eye on the next 2 weeks. We have noticed some pretty significant drops in the open interest on the March contract. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was at 85,000 contracts. Right now, it's below 60,000 contracts. So we have closed out about 85 million ounces that could have been delivered in March. And so they are starting to close that down. But 60,000 contracts represents 300 million ounces of silver. And right now, the COMEX only has a little less than 100 million ounces of registered silver, or silver in the registered category. They've got other silver that's eligible, but that's probably in hands that either will not or cannot let it go. And so it looks like silver is going to have to be brought in if more than 20,000 contracts remain outstanding throughout the month of March. And so this could be a fairly significant thing. I don't think we're going to see a default. Technically, we can't default on the COMEX because their rules allow them to settle in cash. But if they settled in cash on this March contract, well, it would create a lot of disruption within the worldwide exchanges. And so I can assure you they've got some plans to make sure they don't have to do that. And quite frankly, those of us who save in silver and who occasionally trade in silver, we don't want the COMEX to experience a shutdown like that. We might think we do because it would probably result in a temporary rise in prices, but it would also result in a chaotic state to the point where the local coin shops and the wholesalers just stop doing business until there is some sort of semblance of normalcy restored. So again, you might think that you would like to see the COMEX default or at least have to settle in cash, but it would be very problematic. And so hopefully that won't happen. But I wanted to just maybe make another point about all this manipulation. The manipulation in the silver market has been occurring for decades now, and we know that's so because there have been so many large players who have been caught in that manipulation, who have been found guilty of manipulating, and who have had to pay pretty large fines resulting from that manipulation. So we know it occurs, but those of us who have been invested in the market for a number of years know that the market still goes on, and you just adjust to what you have. You can still do well and have a profitable investment. My encouragement on this channel has been more to save in silver and to use silver as an insurance policy. There are things going on around the world that would indicate that it's a very shaky place right now. The US dollar has really had its foundations shaken in the last year, and we can see that by rising prices in the commodity sectors. And silver and gold are kind of a canary in the coal mine for a shaky dollar. And so we've started to see some rumblings. We've seen wars and threats of wars around the world that are starting to make an unsettled environment. And so it doesn't hurt to have something that is solid, that is stable. Silver and gold have been recognized as money for 5,000 years plus now. They have stood the test of time. And we have just looked at a video a day ago that talked about the fact that silver in particular has a way of maintaining its purchasing power regardless of the inflation or the deflation that a nation may be experiencing. There are times where it'll go down, and it'll go down significantly, and it won't look as good as far as a measure of being able to hold its value against inflation, but still, in the long run, it does pretty good. And so, as far as the manipulations go, that really should not bother you or keep you from your plan. If you're just saving in silver and you're dollar cost averaging on a month-to-month basis, then if they do manipulate the market and it goes down, you just buy more silver with your fiat dollars. And if you'll do that over time, my wife and I have done this for decades now, if you'll do that over time, I think you'll find that you end up with a fairly nice nest egg. It may not make you rich, but it will give you an ability to at least maintain a certain lifestyle that most people would like to be able to live. You'd like to have food, you'd like to have clothing, you'd like to have your bills paid off, you'd like to have heat in your home, you'd like to have gas in a car that runs. And so if you save in something that is solid like silver or gold, these will allow you to do that, or at least I found this to be true. And the fact that the market has been manipulated for so many years has really not changed the fact that silver has still been a good investment for us and a good store of value. I think you'll find that as well in your situation, but you need to look at your own situation. You need to come up with your own plan. If you are just in it for a quick flip to buy and sell, I think you'll find other markets a lot more attractive and conducive to that than the physical silver market. But if you're looking to just have savings, something that's solid, something that hopefully will protect you against economic downturn or economic turmoil such as we're experiencing right now, I think that silver will probably fit the bill for you, or gold, or some other similar type of precious metal. But again, right now, even though we've got manipulation, we're still trading in a range. The people who need to be able to provide the contracts that are coming up in March may do everything they can to push it below this range in the next few weeks. So hang on to your hats for a while. It may be a bumpy ride. But again, if you're not in it just for a quick flip, if you're in it for the long haul, just take the price declines as a gift and buy more next month than you would have otherwise. But that's the video for today. I hope it gives you something to think about. I hope it'll help maybe explain how manipulations can occur, but also the fact that they may not affect us quite as much as we sometimes think they do. I appreciate your watching today. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I always enjoy your comments and certainly appreciate them. And I appreciate all of you who have subscribed recently. The channel has certainly been growing, and for your support on that, I sincerely appreciate that as well. But thanks for watching today. I hope we'll see you again next time. God bless.